So this is Exploring the States, New York. Here's your table of contents. Where is New York? New York lies in the northeastern corner of the United States. The St. Lawrence River forms part of its northern border with Canada. New York also borders two Great Lakes. Lake Ontario lies to the north, and Lake Erie is to the west. Vermont, Massachusetts, and Connecticut share New York's eastern border. New Jersey and Pennsylvania are its neighbors to the south. New York's capital, Albany, stands on the banks of the Hudson River in the east. The state's southeastern tip includes Long Island and Staten Island. Bustling New York City stretches onto both. You see the different places? History. This word is very inappropriate, so we're going to just cross that one out. Um, it was derogatory, and it was a French term meaning snake people, and that's not okay. So I know who they're talking about. We'll replace that word with the Haudenosaunee. Sometimes it's Haudenosaunee, and sometimes it's Haudenosaunee, depending on which group you're talking to. Always important to ask people what they like to be called. The Haudenosaunee and Algonquin Native Americans lived in New York before Europeans arrived. In 1624, the Dutch became the first Europeans to, I wouldn't say settled the land, I would say they came over and took away the land. Later, important battles took place in New York during the Revolutionary War. By the late 1800s, New York was a center of business, transportation, and culture. It was already one of the most important places of the world. Did you know? Ellis Island was built in 1892 as an entry point to the United States for a while. Ellis Island received more than 5,000 immigrants every day. Those are people coming from other places to live here. I'm going to let you pause and read this. This is the New York timeline. You've got the Erie Canal, which is located right where we live, the Great Depression, the World Trade Center. If you look from 1929 to 2001, that's a lot of time to not have any significant events in between. So this book is missing quite a few of them. The land, Adirondack Mountains. These are the different temperatures. I giggle because we all know that the weather fluctuates a lot, meaning from day to day, it's hard to tell what the weather's going to bring us. A variety of landscapes fill the state of New York. Rugged mountains, grassy plains, and rolling hills cover the state. The highest mountains are the Adirondacks in the northeast. The Great Hudson River runs south near the eastern border. New York City sprawls at its mouth. The Hudson River Valley surrounds the river and city. A collection of skinny lakes called the Finger Lakes lies in the west. Cows graze in the grassy valleys nearby. To the north and west, low plains line the borders of Lakes Ontario and Erie. Then it has a fun fact. I'll let you stop. Niagara Falls. That's only about 1.5 to 2 hours, depending on how fast you drive, away from us. One of the world's largest waterfalls is in the northwestern corner of New York. Niagara Falls is a long, spectacular cliff of water. The use of spectacular is very interesting here. So you can almost tell that the author really likes the Niagara Falls. More than 500,000 gallons, or they also put what it means in liters, of water thunder over the falls every second. It could fill about 50 Olympic-sized swimming pools in 1 minute. I said one in place of A. The falls are surrounded by the oldest state park in the country. Tourists hike lush trails and bridges that cross the waters. At the Cave of Winds, people can walk within feet of the falls. The rushing water creates wet, windy conditions. Visitors wear rain gear to stay warm and dry. It's actually very expensive to do this, but a lot of schools do make that trip and do cover the cost to stand there and get completely cold and wet. Wildlife. Spotted salamander. Look how cute he is. The spotted salamander makes its home in the damp soil of New York's parks and forests. It can live up to 20 years. I wonder how old this one is. Buttercups, deer mouse, and bobcat. 3/5 of New York is covered in forests. Furry animals such as deer mice, red foxes, and snowshoe hares, which is another word for bunny, scurry through the woods. Bobcats, black bears, and coyotes live in mountain forests. We also know they live in other places too, because we live in New York and we've seen them, right? Yellow buttercups and delicate wild roses grow underfoot. Very interesting use of words, meaning you could step on them. White-tailed deer roam through fields of daisies and black-eyed Susans. They also are all over the state, and especially where we live at night and in the wintertime. Migrating birds, such as Canadian geese, graze near lakes and ponds. Hunters search for grouse, wild turkeys, and other game birds. Sometimes majestic bald eagles soar overhead. Did you know? Stop and read that. Landmarks. New York boasts plenty of state parks and natural beauty. The misty Adirondack Mountains are a popular destination. In fall, I would have said in the fall, the peaks burst into fiery colors. In the winter, people ski at resorts near Lake Placid. The state's Finger Lakes region offers relaxing beaches and little towns to explore. History fans like the museum at Fort Ticonderoga on Lake Champlain. In 1775, colonists captured, let's see what that says, a person who lives in a colony, a person who takes part in founding a colony. Interesting. Captured the fort from the British. The National Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown celebrates the history of America's favorite pastime. At beautiful Hyde Park, visitors can tour President Franklin D. Roosevelt's 35-room mansion. And then there's a fun fact here you can read about the Empire State Building. New York City, Central Park, another did you know? And Chinatown, Wall Street. These are different areas, streets that they've wanted you to like highlight or look at more closely. New York City is the largest metropolis in the country. What's a metropolis? The chief or capital city of a country, state, or region, a large, important city. It includes 5 boroughs or smaller cities. I didn't have to look up the definition because it says it right after the comma. Most people live in apartments. They get around on buses or subway trains. New York City is made up of many different neighborhoods. Each has its own unique culture. Tiny shops sell dumplings in Chinatown. Bankers and business people go to work on Wall Street. New York City is sometimes called the city that never sleeps. There's always something happening. People picnic, jog, and ice skate in sprawling Central Park. Fashion lovers crowd fancy shops on Madison Avenue and Fifth Avenue. Students attend the city's more than 100 different colleges and universities. Working. New Yorkers make all sorts of things. Some people publish books and magazines, others design and sew clothing. New Yorkers also build computer and electronic equipment. In the countryside, farmers raise cows for milk and beef. Others grow tomatoes, cabbages, sweet corn, and apples. Fishers pull in pounds of seafood from the Atlantic Ocean. Most New Yorkers have service jobs. Many work at large financial companies. Others cook at restaurants, run theaters, and work at shops and hotels. New Yorkers must also manage airports, subways, bus systems, and waterways. I'm curious to know what you think because we live in New York. So, does this match what your families do for a living? Are these the jobs you're aware of? Are they missing anything? Yankees game, American Museum of Natural History, a New York City Marathon. New Yorkers love to root for sports team. Baseball fans cheer for the New York Yankees or Mets. The Knicks are the state's most famous basketball team. And then it doesn't mention any of the football teams. I find that interesting. Who are the football teams in New York, my friends? Who are they? Outdoor adventures, hike, ski in the mountains. Coney Island features an amusement park and beaches. The Hamptons, a group of villages on Long Island, attracts sunbathers in summer. Around here, we have Darien Lake and Seabreeze. In New York City, people attend orchestra concerts, ballets, and operas at Lincoln Center for the Performing Arts. Nearby, the American Museum of Natural History features a life-size model of a blue whale. Okay, here's a really cool recipe. These are mentioning different cultural foods. New York is home to immigrants or people that traveled here from all over the world. Almost every type of food can be found here. Near Brighton Beach in New York City, Russian restaurants sell dumplings filled with vegetables or meat. Jewish delis serve giant beef sandwiches and potato pancakes. It doesn't say what it is. I don't want to say it wrong. New Yorkers eat big slices of pizza and they can fold in half. They also love bagels topped with cream cheese and smoked salmon. Vendors sell sizzling hot dogs on the streets. In the countryside, New Yorkers tap maple trees for syrup and make apples into cider. I find it interesting they say the countryside because that happens right here in Rochester, and we are also a city. Festivals. New Yorkers celebrate many cultures. Red and gold dragons dance through Chinatown during the Lunar New Year parade. Visitors experience Japanese culture at the Cherry Blossom Festival in Brooklyn. Millions of people line the streets to watch giant balloons float by in the Macy's Thanksgiving Day parade. Every spring, more than 100,000 tulips bloom at the Tulip Festival in Albany. Visitors to the National Buffalo Wing Festival compete in wild eating contests. Berry, apple, and pumpkin festivals are scattered across the state. Many cities also have their own art fairs, jazz concerts, and film festivals. I'm wondering if this author is from New York or just wrote about New York, because definitely not from Rochester, right? Because we have the Lilac Festival. There's so many festivals that happen locally. Broadway. Years ago, theaters in New York City were clustered around Broadway Street. Broadway's trail of glowing theater lights was called the Great White Way. Today, the word Broadway makes people think of the best theater in America. It is one of the reasons why millions of tourists visit New York every year, and that means New York City. There are currently 40 Broadway theaters in New York City. Most of them are near crowded Times Square. This block of stores is full of giant billboards and honking yellow taxis. Broadway represents the glitter and opportunity of New York City. It is one of many symbols of the Empire State's diversity and charm. Here are your fun facts. You can stop to read. And here's your glossary and how to learn more. I can't wait to hear what all of you came up with.